All right, welcome into kind of a special edition of the 2022 MLB Draft Show. We're doing something a little bit different today. Today, I'm joined by the Director of Amateur Scouting for the Seattle Mariners, Scott Hunter, just to talk a little ball, talk a little bit about the draft, talk a little bit about where it's been, where it's going, some of Scott's experiences inside of the industry, and kind of just an open forum, if you will. So, Scott, welcome to the show, man. Thank you for joining.
No, I really appreciate it, Joe. It's good to finally meet you in person.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
somewhat person,
absolutely.
I guess, right?
Somewhat. This is about as good as we could do over the last couple of years, but I do appreciate a little bit of your time. So, for those that don't know, Scott has been with the organization, the Seattle Mariners, since 2016 or 2014, I should say. You've been the
Yeah.
director of scouting since 16.
Yep. Yeah, I came over in 2014, did 3 years of international cross-checking, did the
Hmm.
international world for 3 years, and then the end of 16, 17 was my first draft in the amateur world.
Yeah, and then 10 years with the Mets before that.
Yeah, my God, it's hard to
Yeah.
even say. I mean, baseball careers go by quick, I guess.
Both coasts for sure. All right, man. Well, I'm gonna open the floor a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about let's start recently. Okay. I guess we'll stick with the Mariners here to start. Tell me a little bit about the 2021 draft. A bit of a unique process, a little like the 2020 draft, some limited sample sizes. How are you feeling about the 2021 class now that we're a handful of months removed from that draft and some of these guys have their feet wet?
Yeah, no, I think it's been, early returns are what they are with guys, especially now with the draft being a little bit later and guys only getting even smaller sample sizes their first year out. But we're excited about it. I mean, the feedback from our high performance camp, the first couple weeks in pro ball, and not even the star guys of our like top of the draft, the three high school guys, which I'm sure we shocked a lot of people in the industry going high school.
Mhm.
But we put ourselves in a position to start being aggressive and start really looking for that next wave of players that are going to affect the Mariners at the big league level. But with the three top, high school guys with Harry got off to, got some at bats, started really off to a great start, made a great impression. Edwin's really, everything we said he was going to be defensively, athlete wise. And then the bat's going to take a little time, but he's actually shown some progress already with his power. And then Michael Morales, we just really shut down, going to let him have a good offseason in our high performance camp and then start really ramping him up in the spring. But overall, the draft depth wise, I think, what was more exciting for me was, the guys up top get obviously all the love and credit. And we talk so much about them, but where our organization has really started to make an impact, and you can start seeing over the last 5 years of how our drafts each year they get a little bit better depth wise.
Mhm.
And creating value in multiple areas of the draft is something that is obviously not only really important to me and our staff, but to Jerry. I mean, Jerry's in a position now, which we talk all the time, that creating value organizationally is huge. Not only for our big league level, but also for trades, for minor league free agency, for all different transactions that go on in the game. But putting pressure on the players that are in the organization each year to create an environment of competitiveness and that will to get to the next level is huge. And with our area scouts and really buying into the things we're doing, like the Brian Woos of the world, who's a 6th-round pick, all coming off of Tommy John, extremely interesting. Who knows what he's going to be, but we liked it before he got hurt. But the impact guys like Will Fleming in the 11th round, Corey Rozier in the 12th round, those guys went out and made impressions really quick, and to the point where we have some guys going, how did we get this guy so late in the draft?
Yeah.
But the depth of our pieces and coming from mid majors, thinking of Colin Davis, he's mid major, goes to Cape Cod, hits 400 in 2 weeks. We draft him, and all he's done is just keep hitting.
Yeah.
And guys like that, and James Parker. I mean, you get a guy out of Clemson in the 8th round, he goes to Modesto, and only OPS is almost 1100 for a month in pro ball. Those are the kind of picks that help build out our organization. And I think the best compliment our guys that we've given in the field was one of our cross checkers went to Modesto late, and he says, yeah, I'm going to Modesto, I'm going to see them for 5 days, but all the better players have gone up to either Everett or and Everett guys have gone up to Arkansas, which our Arkansas team was obviously the place to be this summer. But he
Right.
said when he went there, he was like thinking I wasn't going to see a lot, but he walked away from that 5 day trip and going, hey, they may not be all stars, but we have some guys that have major league level ability and roles that are going to create a lot of value for our organization. And that is when we start really, hitting this thing down or out of the ballpark, is creating that kind of depth in areas that don't come from the first and second round picks.
Yeah, I think you didn't mention some of the previous drafts, but Cade Marlowe is a guy that is presenting excess value from what you'd expect from someone like a 19th round pick.
Yeah, no, and John Wiedenbauer did a great job on that, because as we all know, and this is the thing we started preaching and stuff I've really learned over my 5 years and working with Jerry is, there's organizational picks. Our first and second round pick, there's going to be so many voices, so many opinions, and then when I go into Jerry's office a couple days before the draft and give my recommendation, we are making organizational decisions. It's not one person saying, I stamped this player, this is our guy. I mean, I've done that with Jerry a few times, and luckily we've all been on the same page. But it doesn't really happen that way anymore, especially in the way drafts are. But when we get down later in these rounds, that's when our guys are really starting to make impact, and we really preach to our guys in the field. Once we identify the best players in the country, that's going to be a group effort. But where you can really make some hay in this game and really do some damage for the organization and them and their careers is when you start getting those guys in the later rounds and they start doing some stuff. And Cade Marlowe is a great example. I mean, 21st or 19th round pick, you said. He goes out, he hasn't stopped hitting. He's in the Arizona Fall League right now. And now he's getting comparisons like him and Deloche are real guys. Deloche is a second rounder, and we have a 21st rounder that's being compared in that kind of bucket of player, which is great for the organization, but also the individual scouts who've made that impact.
Absolutely. Going back to the 2021 draft a little bit, talk to me about, and you can go back to 2016 if you want, but what does the 4 to 6 weeks leading up to a draft look like for you? Because we know the story of the team going and visiting Harry and kind of getting their eyes on him firsthand. Is that typical? And I guess how many different ball players do you think you see, Scott, leading up to any one given draft?
Yeah, just the pure evaluation part, I'll see probably 100 to 150 players a season. Some of our guys will see more, some less, depending where they live in the country. But the meetings like that we did with Harry are a little unique. Over the last 5 years, I'll do a lot of player visits. I meet with all of our guys, either via Zoom, in person, try to get to know them, not only on the field, but off, which is such a huge part of what we've done. And that is I've stressed it since I've gotten here, is to our regional scouts, is creating relationships, understanding how players are wired, and then really understanding what drives a kid. Like, what is it? How is he wired? Is he wired to, make it to the big leagues, or is he wired to win in the big leagues? And that is one thing our guys have really knocked it out of the park with. All of our first round picks over the last 5 years have that little extra. Like, they love the game, they love the play, but they also love the work that goes into preparing to play. And the journey to the big leagues is so long and so, difficult that you have to have a different mindset and a different kind of kid that just doesn't, shut it down after they get drafted and get a lot of money in the bank. And our guys have really done a good job with that. And they'll identify players, and then I'll go see a lot of the top end guys. But the individual workouts that we did with Jerry, that was the first time he made a road trip with me in 5 years. Because I gave him a call and I said, you know what, I'm really, this Harry Ford is going to be writing our sight lines, and we should take this real serious. And I said, hey, he's going to work out for me. He's not going to the MLB combine, but he is working out, daily, in Georgia. And I said, we can go see him if you want. And he goes, yeah, let me look at my schedule. And next thing you know, we fly down there. It was really only a 45-minute meet and greet. He did some BP, and Jerry looked at me and said, I'm in. So, which was really, really fun. I mean, not only to get him out into the amateur world and seeing players like that, but to really get to know what we see in the field and have him obviously line up with my views, my thoughts, our scouts reports. And then when he comes and he goes, oh, you guys killed it on this one. It really feels good that we're doing things correctly in regards to our process, our scouts, and doing things the right way, to the point where we can bring our general manager in for a day and he just goes, yeah, let's do it. And which is a lot of fun.
Let's talk just fundamental scouting. You've been at this a long time. And I think every scout, every evaluator has their different pillars, has their different, internal models. When you are first evaluating a kid, and I know that you are high enough up the chain now where some of the kind of introductory pieces of scouting are already done for you, what are some of the things that you're initially drawn to for a kid? Is it contact rate? Is it strikeout, walk rate? athletic markers, projection? Kind of where do your eyes immediately go as an evaluator?
Yeah, if you asked me probably 5 years ago this question, it might have been a different answer because every year I've done this job and every year we've scouted, I've really learned and opened myself up to various parts of the game. Obviously, anytime you walk in a ballpark, I mean, the physical, the athlete, the tools. I mean, the 20 to 80 on the five, the five major tools for, position player. Those things jump out at me. The old school scout, hey, middle field players, power, speed, those combinations you never walk by. But what we've really done, and I think as an industry, it's been very difficult for a lot of scouts and scouts that aren't in the game anymore, or even organizations to bring all areas of evaluation together and take your guards down and be able to listen to it. I would say probably, 5 years ago, I saw out of our 40 round picks, I think 40 picks, I think I might have seen 9 out of the first like 12.
Hmm.
And then now there's been years I've seen only 2 of our first 10, and realizing that you can lean on other people in the organization. It's not just me going in and stamping a player. It's a combination of our analytics. It's a combination of our high performance. It's our scouts in the field. And the thing we've done great, and as an organization, I'm probably the most proud of, is we built trust in our draft room. That if an analyst has an opinion, he can put it out there. If our high performance has a take on a player, we can put it out there, and we can just put it all together and make good decisions. Now, 10 years ago, it really wasn't that way. Everybody had their guard up. It was like, what does that mean? His walk rate, his swing and miss rate, his chase rate, his exit velocity. I know he had, like, a lot of guys would say, I saw it. That's all that matters. And the thing that we've really done well is taking a scout's look, comparing it to what the analysts see, and then if they don't match up, just asking questions. And the give and take is probably the best thing we've been able to do over the last 5 years. And we're still, evolving into a good group where we can continue to do this not only for a year or two or the 5 years we've been together, but hopefully push this thing over the edge where it's just consistent every year and we're churning out players that really support a major league organization.
Yeah. I think I want to jump into the data part because I think that's a really interesting add-in into amateur scouting right now, especially over the last 5 or 6 years. So much of this data has become almost public that area scouts have access to, and I know a lot of organizations like to keep the player evaluation, live look, area scouting separate from the data because you want an unbiased look at a player. Um, how much has that changed your job over the last few years? Just kind of turning amateur scouting into this melting pot of numbers and live looks, and I guess what challenges does it provide you?
Yeah, it's really been like a seesaw of over the last 4 or 5 years. Is like when some of the analytics come out and scouts start, then they start saying, okay, they rely on that too much,
Hmm.
and then sometimes even our analysts will rely on our guys' eyes too much. It's really been hard trying not to trying to blend the two without creating crutches, because you could see ghosts out there. Because I mean, it's all over Twitter now. Every kid has their social media. Everything's, he hit the ball 120 miles an hour or whatever. He throw 97, spin rates 20. Like, I hear scouts and players not, telling me, hey, I went, 4-4, I had quality at bats. I used the whole field. It's, hey, I hit even my own kids. Hey, Dad, I hit the ball 104 today. And I said, was it a good swing? Did you get a hit?
Yeah.
Was it a good day? And then
Did
you
you
even
run
hear
hard?
scouts. Yeah. I mean, like the important, like the things that we focus on now sometimes has become showcase baseball. And the trying to build out the consistency with our staff is to just tell me what you see, then we'll blend with what we know. And that was something that Jerry really taught me over the last 5 years and has really, really preached to us. It's information based decision making, information based coaching now, and it's not one or the other. If we can really continue to combine these two and balance, our live looks with our information, then we really make good decisions. But when you just lock into one piece of information, sometimes the information, it's like, what day was it taken? Where is he pitching? Was this his best moment? Like those things, is he a good kid? Is he able to be taught? Like those things are still real. There's a human element to what we do. And when we continue to blend those two, those are when we get good decisions in multiple areas of the draft.
I want to kind of lean on your 20 years of scouting experience. And I don't know if you can answer this if the player's still in the league or whatnot, or if he's even in the organization, but you've looked at tens of thousands of players. Is there one guy that you can hang your hat on and just say, when I watched that kid hit a baseball, it was different.
Yeah.
It was just different.
Yeah, I'll go back to when I was an area scout doing. I had Pennsylvania was part of my area. Matt Adams. And Matt Adams, was a 30th, 20-something round pick by the Cardinals. And first time I saw him, I mean, in college, he was a little bit overweight. He was probably about 260 pounds. He was catching, playing first. First day I saw him swing the bat, I went, oh my, that's different. And I saw him at a tournament. And he was at Slippery Rock University, a D2 school in Pennsylvania. We did our snowbirding trip. We drive down to Florida that first month of March when all the college teams go down there. And he was on I think it was one of the JUCOs right outside Fort Pierce. And he hit a ball so far, I went, I better go back tomorrow and see if that was real. And then he hit two more balls just as far. And I'm like, I got to watch this guy. I brought him up to Citi Field. It was actually Shea Stadium at the time. He worked out for us, and guys were like, man, this guy could really hit. And I remember Omar Minaya going, man, you better get this guy if you come to the draft. But the problem was at the time, he was really overweight, and he got himself in good shape. I was in the draft, and it's my biggest, letdown story as a young area scout was I was in the draft room that year, and from the 5th round to the time he was drafted on the 22nd round or whatever it was, I could not get him selected by the New York Mets that year. And my scouting director at the time he called me after he got the big leagues. He says, "You were right on that one." So it wasn't right. It was just different.
Yeah.
There was a lot of risk in where he was going to play. Could he catch? Could he play first? Is he too big? I remember one veteran scout says, "How many guys have bodies like this?" I said, "Well, Bob Hamlin was he was a rookie of the year and could really hit." I said, "You could get their bodies in better shape, but you really can't teach that kind of hit and power tool." And I mean, not that hindsight's 20/20 for some of us, but he went out and he just was different, just with that kind of bat speed, that kind of power. And the biggest thing is that kind of zone control all throughout his career. And it's something obviously we preach heavily here, and it's something that I've really learned over time, the importance of those markers in good hitters. There's guys that could hit, and there's guys that are good hitters, and the guys that control that strike zone are a little bit different.
How about on a more micro level inside of the Mariners organization over the last, 5 to 7 years? It can be international as well. Is there a guy that you're just kind of irrationally excited about? Someone that was maybe a later round pick that has you juiced?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, we did trade a few guys over the first couple of years we were here because I know we had an aging roster, and then you hear some of the guys that we traded are doing well, like Tommy Romero at Tampa Bay. I mean, he was like a 15th or 16th round pick, and it was our first year together. I hear he's killing it with Tampa right now. I don't know if he's going to be one of their rotation pieces, but he's got a good chance of pitching in the big leagues. Like guys like that are scout driven really have excited me over the years. I mean, Noah Zavalis was traded. Like sometimes the trades are more exciting. Like when you get a guy that's actually asked for in a trade in the later rounds, those things have really been exciting. Carter Binns, who we traded and got Tyler for our stretch run there. Like those are exciting guys. I don't know if they're ever going to play in the big leagues and stick, but they created value for your organization and your GM. But probably a personal, I guess. One was it's easy to say Julio Rodriguez because when I was doing international, we saw him when we were 14 or 15 years old. And I'm like, this guy's just different. We never even thought we were going to sign him because, that was the year the new rules came into place. And he was a guy that was going to get top dollar. And then when all the bonus pool money changed, he was left without a chair. And next thing you know, we had some money left and we offered to him. So we were blessed to get that. But a guy like Juan Then, I guess, just probably really sticks with me. I mean, he's been traded back to us, but when we signed him during the international world, and international is obviously real different. You can't rely on the data and information as much, but he was 145 pounds when he worked out for us. He was throwing 82 to 84 miles an hour. And you just looked at him, you went, there was a lot of strikes. He's got a body that hopefully if it gets out and gets stronger, everything seems to work. What can we sign him? And to sign a player down there, and the high school arms down there, or the young projection guys are not big money pieces. So to get a guy for $75,000 to $100,000, and now is throwing 97 miles an hour, finding his way probably to hopefully Double-A next year, those are really fun picks because it's just the old school pure scouting of what, this works right, it looks right, and there's something about the human being that really intrigues me. So those are probably the funnest picks that you have.
Yeah, good names. All right, well, let's talk about kind of looking forward, the 2022, 2023, 2024, not specifically the drafts themselves, but how are you feeling about, Major League Baseball putting more marketing revenue, putting more onus on the draft being a critical piece of the All-Star festivities and just kind of putting it on a bigger stage? I mean, it seems like the MLB draft has lagged behind the NBA and NFL for reasons that obviously are unique to Major League Baseball. But do you take pride in something like that with it elevating?
Yeah, you know what? It is fun, and it's been something that obviously we're never going to be the NBA or NFL draft just because our guys aren't as they don't go right to the major leagues. A
Right.
lot of them are going to be 4 or 5 years before you see them again. But anytime you can get some attention for what we do and get some scouts, recognition out there and what organizations are doing as a whole is really fun. Now, the timing of the draft, the All Star game, if you talk to scouts and even a lot of the directors, it's difficult because you have so many
Yeah.
things moving during that time. You're leading up to a draft. You're trying to think about next year's crop already. You have pro reports coming in. Like there's a lot of moving parts now that the draft has been pushed back. But to see it get the attention it deserves is really nice. And hopefully we can continue to build our game and build our product that more kids want to play. Because that's the other thing is just the youth baseball has gone in so many different directions now just because of the travel costs that go into it. So hopefully it can create a little more atmosphere around our game and really start supporting it.
Sure. Okay, last question. So we're jumping into winter. It's a little bit of a down period, if you will. Kind of get a couple of months to take a deep breath, if you will. Do you have any surface level thoughts on the 2022 class? Just have you had a chance to take a look at it? Any narratives that you're kind of seeing here early on?
Yeah, it's I don't know if scouting ever ends anymore. Scouting never sleeps is our joke now. Like, before we got on the call, we'll do some stuff with our scouts. We start going through players throughout the country, deep in on guys' lists, trying to target where we start our travel next year. We do a lot of video work, which I'm working through a lot of the Team USA college guys right now since they were playing during the draft run.
Right.
But I do think this draft, I mean, we're going to feel better about it going in because we just have much more information. Like we actually got a full summer of seeing these guys. We had Team USA. This is our first fall in 18 months, almost 2 years that our guys are out in ballparks. They're meeting the players. They're seeing fall college games. So to understand the player pool, I think we are in a better place now than we were, for the 2020 draft and even 2021 because of the sample size. It was more high school driven, the amount of who played summer baseball and who played in fall, and
Right.
what we were able to see. But I do think that where we pick now, and Jerry and Justin Hollander joked with me probably midway through. We thought we'd probably maybe one more year of picking fairly high, and it kind of like snowballed on us, which is a great thing for our organization. The amount of games we won. I don't know if anybody in in Major League Baseball saw us winning 90 games this year, and now like where we were getting used to picking up top, it's actually fun for me because now we're we're going to be picking in the 20s. Our team's
Yeah.
winning. Now the challenge really becomes of how prepared you can be, what falls in your lap, and just making sure we are keeping our process good. So we fall into, I don't want to say fall into, but our I guess our highest pick since I've been here is the 20th pick, and that was George Kirby.
Hmm.
And right
That turned
now
out okay.
that's looking okay. So just to making sure we're prepared to make good decisions on draft day, that's the biggest thing we do. But in regards to the pool, I do think it's actually a little more balanced this year. There's going to be a crop of high school and college bats that go really well, just like in every year. But there's a little more depth in that area than in the last 2 years. The college hitters, there's a few more, and there's a good amount of college or high school hitters that we're intrigued by. The pitching is always like, some guys come out of the woodworks every year. There's
Right.
probably 2 or 3 high school arms that we already are locked in, and maybe 1 or 2 college arms that were like, maybe they fit. But with the pitching, especially coming off a COVID year when guys had limited innings, now you're really going to see after a full real year of work who comes out and really steps up.
Absolutely. Well, Scott, it has been a pleasure chatting with you. You're a knowledge bank of information, and definitely think viewers and listeners are going to be smarter having listened to you. Thank you so much for your time today, man.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks, Joe.